what I want to do is I love real estate. I love construction. I love development. I want to be one of the biggest developers. I want to work in New Jersey. I want to work in New York City. I love the art of the deal, the sport of real estate.
Get ready for Real Lives of Real Estate, where the world of real estate meets the essence of your life. Buckle up as we unravel stories, homes, and the heartbeat behind it all. Let's dive into another episode. I hope you share and are encouraged. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I got probably, in my opinion, one of the coolest guests we ever got. A guy who first time meeting, but I feel like I already know you because of our social media, and I've stalked you so many times. George Castros, a realtor, a friend. At one point, he did coin himself the youngest realtor in the world. Frankly, he honestly might have been it because born out of the womb selling. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm wonderful, Brandon. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast. I appreciate it very much, and I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yes.
I've been watching some of the episodes. I think you've done a phenomenal job, and I'm really, really excited to be on the podcast.
Well, it means a lot to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you. But with that said, let's start from the jump. What did you grow up in? Did you grow up in a house? Did you grow up in an apartment?
I grew up in a house. I still live with my parents, my father, my mother, my sister, beautiful family in Elizabeth. That's where I grew up. I've lived there my whole life. And I've always been in the real estate business, as we were talking about before, we went on air. I've always loved the business. I enjoy it. I grew up learning from my father, who's been in the business 35 years. But I did grow up with my parents in Elizabeth.
And when you say a house, did you guys stay in one house your whole life?
We stayed in one house. I've been in the same house, and I continue in the same house my whole life, which is incredible nowadays because
unheard of.
You see many people, 4, 5, 6 houses, which is normal nowadays, but we've been in the same house, and it's been a blessing for me.
21. So you've been in, and how old are you now?
I'm 21.
Oh, yes, 21. Okay, 21. And you've been in real estate licensed for 3 years.
I've been licensed for 3 years.
You were licensed the day you turned 18, essentially,
18,
almost.
18. And we were saying, when I was 18, I was, quote unquote, the youngest realtor in the world because you get licensed when you're 18. So that was my brand. I'm the youngest realtor in the world, and I was doing videos and posts as the youngest realtor, and that was my brand. But
it worked.
It created attention
A lot.
But I've been around the business ever since I was young. My uncle jokes with me, and he tells me, "You were in the womb listening to real estate and making deals." He jokes with me.
But it's true.
It's true.
How was it? I guess you're growing up. You're born. Did your father invest in property, or was he more on the brokerage, focusing on the building of that business?
My father has been a broker for 30 years. He's invested in properties. We have many properties. He's built properties. He was involved heavily in construction. The market collapsed in 2008. It was a big situation, but he continues in development and construction. He's a real estate broker. I call him the broker of brokers.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think he is.
Yeah, I do like your dad. Honestly,
Yeah.
I follow your the brokerage online, and I honestly really do enjoy.
Right.
It's in his energy, so I love it. Well, let me ask you this, George. Growing up, when did you first realize that your dad was this real estate investor, real estate broker? What was the difference, you think, of your upbringing versus someone who perhaps had a W-2 parent, right? W-2 pay stub, regular 9-to-5 job.
Well, I can say that I was very blessed because my father has always been in real estate. And ever since I was very young, he always bred me. We say he bred me into the business. I've always been a business person ever since I was very young, and I learned it from my father in large part.
Did it ever click to you, though, that your dad was a broker?
I always knew it, and I would always be in the office. I remember I was 3, 4 years old, 5 years old, and I would go to the office. I would walk around the office. I would meet with the agents. I would see the agents. And I was always around what was going on in the office, which then allowed me to do what I'm doing now. He was very strict with me. He was a disciplinarian. Everything had to be, you had to be number one. You had to be a winner. And I think that instilled the love for business and the love for the game for me. But I've always been around it. I always knew what he did. He would take me to the Ritz Theater, which we spoke about before.
The Ritz Theater is a?
It's a performing arts venue. It's a 3,000-seat venue where we do some of the biggest artists in the world. We do shows, we do events, we do conferences. And I would always go with him when I was very young, 4, 5, 6 years old, to the theater. He was always shaking hands with people, meeting with people in the office, meeting with clients, going to showings, meeting with other realtors. And I've always been around it, and I've always loved it ever since I was very small.
We had a guest here not so long ago. You actually, I think, Rob is going to correct me. We had two other guests here. Yeah, two other guests here whose fathers were very prominent real estate developer, brokers, etc.
Right.
And they're doing very well in their own right.
Yeah.
Right. If you're listening, appreciate you guys coming on. It was a polarizing experience. One was kind of like he actually jumped out of real estate because he felt the pressure of being there. The other one shared that being in his his father was one of the largest landowners in Newark, developers, extremely successful, amazing guy. He's like, well, I have to kind of be a shield, right? I have to guard this, and I have like that. I have a chip on my shoulder because people are expecting me to fall, step up. You seem to really, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. You seem to really have kind of embodied that and said, I love it. Why do you think there's such a difference when you're a second generation real estate developer or a second generation real estate industry professional? Why do you think there's this huge spectrum? And how did you end up on the side of, I love it just as much as he did?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a testament of how I was raised. You see, for example, nowadays, very wealthy, very rich people, and they have kids, they have sons, and they don't turn out to be how the parents were or the father were. They're actually exactly the opposite.
That's what I'm saying.
You see some of these kids getting into drugs and getting into the wrong things, and you see the parents, and they're successful people, and they're phenomenal people. I think when your kids are growing up, for example, it's important to spend time with them, to teach them. My father was always a disciplinarian. He would always teach me. I would always be involved in the business. And I've always had a competitive drive. He would send me to the best schools. I would go to phenomenal schools. And I was raised by my father, by my mother, which allowed me to grow into the person that I've become.
How do you think your relationship with your father and your mother would have been different if your father wasn't in real estate?
I think it would have been very similar. We spend a lot of time together. Our family, we're very close-knit.
Give me an example of spending time together. Like, did you guys have dinner together?
We have dinner together. We have a big family. My father's Colombian, so those Colombian families, they're huge. They're huge with the music and everything.
Boom, boom, boom.
So we spend a lot of time together. Granted, we're in the business. So my father's in business. I'm out doing showings. I'm making deals happen. My mother works in a trademark and patent firm with some of the biggest trademark and patent clients in the United States. But we're very, very close-knit, always very together. I think in life, Brendan, every person needs a mentor in any business. And my father's been my mentor in real estate. He's taught me, I've learned from him, which allows me to have the knowledge that I do today.
Do you feel as though it's hard for you to be personal? Like, I give you an example. I was with one of my team members, and the individual was opening up to me that he made a bad decision personally. Yeah. And he was very hesitant to share it with me, right? Yeah. He made a very bad decision personally. He was very hesitant to share it with me.
Right.
And I said, my friend, like, it's okay,
of course,
right?
Totally.
People make mistakes. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't want you to hear about the personal bad decision I make because I don't want you thinking less about me professionally.
Yeah.
So I was shocked. I said, wow. Because I didn't see it like that. Yeah. I'm like, you can be great professionally and be a miserable person.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
You can be a legendary.
And you see it every day.
Yeah. You can be number one in the billboard. Cool. But then you literally are like a depressed, miserable, anxious-ridden, stress-induced bombshell. Right? Yeah. Boom, boom, ticking bomb. So I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, for me, as a team member, you get rewarded based off what you do. Yeah. On our team, we run a meritocracy. There's no favorites. Like, I hang out with some people, I don't hang out with others. It doesn't matter. There's no favorites.
Totally.
It's like, it doesn't matter if I hang out with you daily or if I never hang out with you. Why? If you do a good job, I will treat you fairly.
Totally.
If I can rely on you, if you have grit, coachability, leadership, all those things. So my question for you there would be, do you find it difficult to perhaps connect with your family, given that you guys are in real estate, such as your father, on a personal level, when things aren't professional? I'm sure you don't eat, breathe, sleep real estate every moment. You love it. There's not a second you don't want to break. You're not a machine. Maybe you're not a machine, or are you a machine? You're like, listen, I haven't taken a day off since I was 2 years old, right? Yeah. No one's a machine. Yeah. So are you able to kind of unplug?
I think you need to love what you do. And I think they say, it's cliche, if you love like what you do, you never work a day for your life. I don't really do it because it's a business, because of the money. I love spending time with my father in the business and doing deals, and we spend time together, and I love that. But I just enjoy the game, the art. I don't feel as if I'm working because I genuinely love what I do, and I love the business. It gives me drive to continue aspiring and succeeding. When I wake up every morning, I'm excited for the day because I'm excited to go to work and make deals and talk to people. In business, you're always going to have failures. And, you go through ups, you go through downs, you roll with the punches, as they say. But I think if you love what you do, although you may have failures, because if you don't love it and eventually you have a failure or something happens, it's very, very easy to quit. And if you love what you do, I think it allows you to push through that.
Well, it's clear you love real estate 100%, the industry as a whole. And it's honestly remarkable to me that you and your family have been able to stay so close in light of the business.
Yeah.
That is like so strange to me. Honestly, it's very, very, very...
We're probably one of the closest families you'll ever meet. We're very, very close in light of the business. Yeah, very much so.
What does your sister do?
My sister she's in college. I'm in college right now too. We go to Seton Hall.
Why are you in college?
I think...
What's the rationale for you to be in college?
I'll tell you why. A lot of people nowadays say, and this is the new generation, I don't think you need the degree per se, but I think to a certain extent, I think when you reach a certain level, and I went to a very good high school, Oratory Prep in Summit, I think when you reach a certain level of success, or whatever you may want to do, whether you want to do politics in the future, I still think it's important, maybe not the knowledge that you learn in school, but I think it's important to have a degree. And not
That's a tough hit, man. I don't know, like especially for someone like you, your family's in real estate, and it's funny that you say that too because the gentleman Gabe, the developer of J&L Companies, the large developer in Newark. We had him on our podcast. His father owns Don Pepe restaurant, which one great family, blah blah blah.
Right.
The whole point of the story is he has a degree. And I was always shocked. I said, what are you learning? What do you have a degree?
Yeah.
He's a lawyer by trade.
Right.
So he's an attorney. So he not only went to a bachelor, he got his law degree.
Wow.
So I was like, obviously your family's set, right? It's not like me, I grew up broke, right? My family was very poor.
Right.
We moved like 13 times by the time I was 10 or 10 times by the time I was 13. I don't remember anymore. Yeah. And we got a degree because that's what, as immigrants, that's what my parents grew up saying, like, oh, you need a good degree. Yeah. You need a good degree.
Yeah. Which has become a cliche, which you see some of the most successful people in the history of the world, which I study some of these people. Steve Jobs never had a degree. No. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't. But
So why you? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Because
you're probably making more money than your college professor.
I am. But most certainly I am. I think school to a certain extent keeps you going. You're writing essays, you're doing work.
Brother, I'll give you another guy we had here. His name was Carlos Figueroa, Key Point Mortgage, very good mortgage broker. He said that he was in William Patterson.
Right.
His third year in William Patterson, going on his fourth year. Yeah. And his parents really wanted him to get in college. What about his third year? Third year, I think it was. He had another 40 credits left, 30 credits left, something like that. Yeah. And basically, his professor was teaching about mortgages.
Right.
And during the class, Carlos is like, wrong, wrong.
Yeah. I've seen it.
And just saying this professor's wrong. And then finally, the professor said, hey, can you come in afterwards? He said, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think you should be in college. I think you should do this full time.
Right.
He goes, oh, I do it full time. He said, okay, then don't waste any time in here. You're probably making way more money than I am. Go do this right now.
Yeah. And I very well could do that. I'm at a very early stage of my life, and I think it teaches discipline. I think more than anything, you learn a lot. You learn knowledge. I take very high intense classes, honors classes. So I think to a certain extent, deadlining, I think it helps me. And I think at this particular stage of my life, I don't need the degree per se, but in the future, you never know. You may need it, and I learned from it.
In what scenario would you need the degree? I hate to disagree with you. I'm honestly fascinated. Yeah. Because my mindset, I'm like, here's the youngest realtor I know, 21. Your real estate acumen is probably more advanced than people who are 35, been in the business 10 years, right? Who've done hundreds of deals, right? Because you're. It's like someone. I'll give you an example. If you were in my. Pele, right? Pele, right? Obviously, best soccer player in history, right? This guy's a GOAT. Yeah. You can say Messi, whatever, but Pele, right? Pele, Brazilian, whoa, right? South American.
I'm a Messi guy.
Okay, I'm sure. We got to pray for it. No, just kidding. But this guy, Pele, his father grew up with his father. His father made a soccer ball with socks and duct tape or whatever it was. So something crazy, like a makeshift soccer ball. Yeah. So he grew up playing soccer. When he was I think in the Olympics at he was in the World Cup at 16, 17, 18, something like that. Yeah. Insane. That's in my mindset with you because you grew up in the trade. Right. So for me, I'm thinking, what scenario could realistically play out that you would need a degree?
You never know. Perhaps in the future, I want to do politics, or perhaps in the future, you need to anticipate anything.
I agree with
And
that.
if in the future I ever want to do anything of that sort, which perhaps maybe I do, you need a degree. Not because you need a degree, but because it's frowned upon not having the degree. And that's not why I'm getting the degree, but you just never know. So you always need to be prepared for the eventuality of whatever opportunity may arise by having the degree.
Wow.
And I enjoy school. You know, if
If it brings you joy, it brings you joy.
I enjoy the knowledge. You know, nobody really likes going to school, but I enjoy it because to a certain point it keeps me going, and I'm writing and I'm learning, and my mind continues going. You know, I have my deadlines. I'm disciplined. I have to hand in by this time, and it really helps me schedule and plan and do all those other things, which will then allow me to do that in the future.
Now, let me ask you this. Do your classmates at Seton Hall know that you're in real estate?
Everybody.
So what I would love to hear, what did they say?
They look up to me. You know, I'm a leader in my classroom. I help everybody as much as I can, but I'm a leader. You know, they see me. I've helped a lot of my classmates get their license. I always try to help my classmates.
You put the classmates onto the real estate.
Yeah.
Seton Hall is about to lose students.
Yeah.
They're about to jump ship.
They may lose students, and I think they've lost some already. I've met a very good friend of mine, Jacob. Mm-hmm. He's Polish, Jacob Staniewski. Mm-hmm. And I met him through school, very intelligent kid. And we were in a class together, and he reached out to me, and I got him into real estate. And now he's he's producing. But
probably making more money than the professor.
Probably making more money than the professor.
Let's just be honest. You got to think a professor's probably making 70 grand, 80 grand max.
Yeah.
Maybe if they're like a high-end professor, 100 something.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Wow.
Yeah. But I you know, my classmates, my peers, my friends, they see me as a leader. So they ask me for help with their work, with their essays. I get them into real estate. I have meetings with my teachers before every semester. I tell them what I do, you know, this is what I do, so on and so forth.
You have meetings with each teacher before you start the class.
Yeah.
What does that meeting look like?
I meet with them. I tell them, listen, this is what I do. I do real estate. I show them my background just because I like meeting my professors, not so much to tell them what I do, but I like meeting with them before the class, building a relationship with them. So at any point, if I ever need anything, or I need to switch something, or I need assistance with something, they step up to the plate with me.
Oh, for example, let's say you have a night course. And when are your classes? Morning,
If
night?
I have, for example, a night course, and I always do my best to be at every class and hand in everything at time, and my grades are very good. But if I have, for example, something very important, or I have an appointment, and I can't make it to class, there's some sort of a leniency with me because I'm a very diligent student, and they know that I do what I do. So I always like meeting with the professors prior to actually indulging in the course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. Okay, next question for you. Changing topics here. So you're a full-time student. How many credits you taking?
I'm taking 18. 6 classes.
6 full-time plus 3 credits. Full-time's 12.
Yeah. And I graduate this year, so I'm almost...
At this point, you might as well finish.
Totally.
This is your last semester?
Yeah, last semester.
Oh, you're not going to jump ship
I might
now.
as well. No.
You might as well. They hooked you in. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So with that said, how has real estate impacted your ability to date? Because you're very ambitious. When do you find time to...
You're talking about date, meaning romance.
Dating, romance. Like, is that even something in your mind right now?
Not so much because I'm very young. I have many friends that are girls, friends that are boys. And I go out with my friends, and we go out to eat, and we have a good time. It's not so much my focus now because I'm very focused. I'm 21 years old, and I know that I'm going to have the rest of my life to date. I'm going to be married. I'm going to have kids and so forth. And you kind of go with, you never really know because life throws punches at you. But I'm not too focused on that right now because I know I'm going to have time for that eventually, potentially in the future. I'm more focused on real estate, myself, what I want to get done, what I want to accomplish, and eventually that'll come. Whether it be in 2 years, 3 years, you never know. You meet somebody tomorrow and they become the love of your life.
If you weren't in real estate, do you think you'd be dating?
I mean, you don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I'm just very, very focused on the task at hand. I know that I want to do, and frankly, I don't really have time for it.
No, you have no time.
Yeah.
You're 18 credits, you're a full-time job, probably working 50 hours a week.
There's no time for it. So you don't want to sacrifice at my age, 21 years old. Perhaps if I was 26 or if I was 30, it would be different. But I'm very focused right now on my goals and what I want to do. But I just don't put too much focus on it right now at my age.
Do you travel? What do you do for you? That's
I
the better
love
question.
traveling. I go every year with my parents to Spain. We were in Spain for a month
nice.
this year. We stayed in a beautiful villa. We had a great time. We travel very frequently. I haven't been to Colombia since I was very young.
Okay.
I need to go back to Colombia. But we always go on excursions to Florida.
Nice.
I love traveling.
It sounds like your family is like this. You were in line when you were saying you're close. You guys are like glue.
We're very close together. We're a very close family.
Wow,
and
so beautiful.
we travel very frequently. We take excursions. We go out to eat every weekend. We're always together.
You guys do a family dinner every day or every weekend?
Every weekend. We
On a Saturday or Sunday, you say, hey.
on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Dinner.
Dinner, lunch, depending on the day. But we'll go to New York. We'll go to Pennsylvania. We'll go to a nice place in New Jersey. Wow. We're always going out doing things together as a family. And I think, it can't always be business, because eventually you get, quote unquote, burnt out. You need to enjoy yourself. You need to be with your family. You need to do the things you love. Everybody has a different hobby. So that allows me to maintain sharp. If it's always business all the time, you don't really stay sharp.
You get dull. You sharpen it too much.
You get dull, although I really love business.
Yeah.
But you need to diversify your life, to do things you love, because that keeps you sharp.
If you were to introduce yourself without saying what you do, where you're from, or what nationality you are, how would you introduce yourself?
I would describe myself as a winner. I'm very disciplined. I'm very consistent. And I'm always somebody who's striving for more and more and more. I think that's prevalent in our business. You have 87% of realtors in our business fail within the first 5 years, and I'm sure you've seen it in the real estate business. So having those attributes, persistence, consistency, and really thinking big. I say if you're going to think at all, if you're going to think or you're going to aspire for something, you might as well think big. If you're going to waste your time thinking, you might as well think big. Aspire for more. And that's really what I do in my life. And I'm always looking for the next project, for the next opportunity, because that gives me a charge. That's what I enjoy.
It sounds like you are so deeply woven in like passion, but not really. It's like a diligence. It's like a duty, almost like a Navy SEAL. That's what you sound like. What do you do that's irresponsible? What's the last thing you did that was irresponsible?
What do I do that's It's a very broad question.
Like, wait, I'll give you my last irresponsible thing I did. The last irresponsible thing I did was, maybe this is bad to say, but I ate, take those Tate cookies.
Oh, I'm
Take
bad.
cookies?
I'm bad with the cookies.
Oh,
and
I'm bad with the cookies.
Bad with the
I'm bad with the sweets. So I had 2 rows of cookies, and my wife went to bed. I said, "I'll come be right there." I ate the cookies. I was, like I was drunk.
I have probably the biggest sweet tooth that you'll ever see.
Oh, okay.
I love sweets.
You're a pretty in shape guy. What is it? Metabolism?
I'm in shape, and people joke around with me because I eat for the most part healthy. I love steak, but I eat a lot of sweets. I eat a lot of ice cream and cookies, but I don't really work out. For the most part, I'm in shape. I play sports. I love playing sports.
What sports do you play?
Basketball, baseball, and soccer.
You played basketball. That was the first sport you said, basketball.
I played basketball, baseball, and soccer.
We got to play basketball together.
We have to play.
I would love that. Can we get some content? The basketball?
But I played those 3 sports in high school.
Oh, okay, cool.
I've always been a sports junkie.
What would you say your main sport is you like the most?
I would say to watch, I also play golf. To watch, I like basketball. Because it's fast-paced, it's quick. I enjoy basketball. But to play, I like baseball because of the strategy.
Yeah.
And baseball is more so of a mental game than it is physical.
Actually, I just learned that. I actually, I grew up Brazilian. I don't know anything about baseball.
Were you born here or in Brazil?
I was born in New Jersey, Claremont Hospital. I was 10 pounds, 12 ounces. I was the second biggest baby. At the time, my mom tells me this. I don't know if it's true. I was the second biggest baby born in the hospital history at the time I was born, in 1994. I'm not as young as you. You're 21, right? You're
21.
When I was a totally different place. I got into real estate when I was 23. I was just turning 23.
Right.
Just turning 23.
When you got into it.
When I got into real estate.
So you got in very young.
And I'll tell you, I think it's the way.
Yeah.
I think it's the way. And you made a very good point. This, I think, like what you're saying, I don't want to agree with. I don't know why I have the response. I don't want to agree. But what you're saying is right. Like, you really don't need to have in your mind right now the female aspect.
Yeah.
You don't need to have like the relationship aspect right now. You're actually making really responsible, excellent decisions. The challenge I think you'll have obviously unsolicited, I may be totally wrong, but that later on in life, you'll become such a regimented, and it's not a bad thing, actually. It's actually a great thing, right?
Yeah.
We could probably use more men like you, right, in this world, right? With diligent, disciplined men. It would be a wonderful thing for society. But to, like, for example, go out and travel, like, with no family.
Right.
And to go out and be like, not people say, well, you gotta sow your wild oats. I don't believe in that crap. I think that's a very foolish mentality.
Yeah.
Oh, go out and sow. Before I got married, this guy told me, I'm a Christian. My wife and I waited till marriage to have sex all night, right? And it was a wonderful decision. With that said, this guy told me, he's like one of my, like, he's not really a mentor by any means. He's like an older friend.
Right.
But he's like, you should go and sow your wild oats. You're way too young and married. Go have sex with a bunch of women.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a horrible advice is this guy giving me? What am I gonna do? I'm just because I'm 24. I should just go get.
So he was trying to turn you into a savage.
Yeah, he was trying to turn me into a savage. I'm like, what is this guy saying? No, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But my point is this: for some reason, I feel like you should go out and be a savage, not just with women. If I'm saying, but like, do reckless things.
Right.
Like, why? Why?
I'm very adventurous. I'm very, very.
But you don't
adventurous.
sound reckless. You sound
I-
responsibly irresponsible.
I'm responsible, but I'm very adventurous.
Yeah, how do you do it?
I don't really like. You can't really follow the status quo because in life everything's always changing. I could say, for example, today I'm not dating, and then in a year I'm dating somebody. You just never know.
And you're young enough that you're not going to hold yourself captive to these because you're growing every day.
Yeah.
Especially in our age, in your 20s, you're growing so quickly. And so who you are today is not who you're going to be at 23.
Totally. You're always changing with experience. Something that I don't have, and I've experienced a lot because I have my father as my mentor. And as I said, I think it's important to have a mentor in any business.
I agree with you.
And
I think in life, even if you're not in business,
in life,
get a mentor. You're dating somebody, get a mentor.
You always need a mentor. And he's been my mentor. But you never know. You roll with the punches of life. You have good days, you have bad days, you have days in the middle.
Wow.
It's all about the stamina. You need to have stamina, especially in our business. Because you have a client who comes to you the day before a closing, and everybody's seeing it, and they come to you and they say, I no longer want to buy the house.
Boom.
Or the monthly mortgage payments are too high. And for a lot of people in the business, that'll totally mentally put them out of it.
For this, no, I will even go with that. That will put them out. This is the worst part about being. This is what realtors do. The mistake. Way. I'm leaning forward.
Or realtors, for example, you need to know how to speak to the clients as a realtor. And when a client comes to you the day before the closing, you need to know how to explain the tax benefits, the numbers. What's the monthly mortgage payment? Why are you buying this house? What are the tax benefits of buying this house? What are you paying in property taxes? Most times realtors, what I say is they spit numbers at clients. You know, this is your monthly mortgage payment.
Good luck.
But when somebody's going from paying $2,000 in monthly rent and now they're paying a $5,000, for them, it's too much. You need to know how to dissect and explain and go through the numbers.
What would you say? Wow, so beautiful, honestly. I would say the challenge with realtors is that, and how it impacts your real estate life, is that real estate would actually knock you out, but not for a long time.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like these defeats that we have in real estate, how they really impacted my life is it taught me that even if something personally goes wrong in my life, not to veer off course. Like, for example, in that situation you just gave, the day before a client wants to cancel. Let's say the client
Which
does
happens
cancel.
in our business.
Happens. And you know what? I don't blame them. Sometimes they were making a bad decision. They learned to the end and they said, you know what? I regret it. I'm not going to, what am I going to do? Put a gun in someone's head? I work for the client. The client tells me, hey, I can't afford the mortgage. We walk through the numbers and they truly can't. What am I going to do? Push the client to buy? I'm not. Oh, no. I don't want any foreclosure on my conscience. So with that said, I go to the person. I go to the, in that situation, let's say the client cancels. What I've learned is a lot of realtors, what they'll end up doing is that will knock them out for a month. Then they restart a month later. I've already done that. Right? What happens when you restart a month later? You've lost momentum. So
momentum is huge.
I transfer that into my marriage. I'll give you an example. Last night, my wife and I, we were having momentum, right? I was like, from the beginning of the day, I was being very romantic with my wife, very caring with my wife the whole night.
You guys build the chemistry.
We built the chemistry over the week. I'm like, hey, I really want my wife to feel love today.
Right.
But that's from the morning.
And
then in the evening, my wife said something to me that rubbed me the wrong way. I asked my wife something. She was a little bit, she wasn't sharp, but I didn't do what I liked. So what did I want to do? Well, this bad thing happened. Now I'm out.
Right.
But what was I going to do? I was ruining the momentum of being in a wonderful no funk zone.
Yeah.
Right. My wife have a joke and I, the no funk zone in marriage, we call it the NFZ. We don't want to be in a funk. We want to be in no funk zone.
Right.
So instead I said, what am I going to, I'm going to overlook this trespass. It's a very minor thing.
Yeah.
Realistically, just like the person canceling, it's one sale.
Yeah.
All it is one sale.
One sale.
You're going to sit on the sidelines for a month and cry it out for one. This is what a broker told me. My mortgage broker, Carlos Figueira, Key Point Mortgage. Excellent. Shout out you. There was a day I was still. I'm like, yeah, you're so young. It's insane. I'm just realizing right now. I was so much older than you. This is crazy. So I was 24, 25. 3 or 4 deals die in one day within a 24-hour span. On Friday to Saturday, 3 or 4 deals died and 2 offers got rejected. And at the time, I only had probably 9 deals under contract.
Right.
So to me, it was like half my business.
Yeah.
I was dying, right? Or
And
25 years
a
old.
lot of realtors, and I'm sorry to cut
No,
you
please.
off, they mentally spend that money. You know, I'm going to make this amount of money. I'm going to spend it on this and that. And the deal falls through and everything goes to the ground. But you need stamina. You need resilience. I think in business as a whole, not only real estate. And I'm very big into reading books and listening to podcasts and watching interviews. And I study some of the most successful and wealthiest people in the world. Because I think to be wealthy, to obtain success, you need to understand it. So I study these people. And in most cases, a lot of the most successful people in the world go through shortcomings.
Oh, of course.
And they have failures.
Big failure.
You need to be resilient. You need to have stamina. The market changes. The market adjusts. You need to know how to adjust. And you never give up. You never quit. And I've seen people, Brandon, friends of mine. I went to a very good school where my friends' parents are on Wall Street and they're bankers. I've seen good friends of mine starting a business. They quit right before they get over the hump. And if they would have kept going, they would have been great. And they would have made a lot of money. But they quit right before. You need to be resilient and you need to have stamina.
Where do you find your resilience and stamina?
It comes from within. I'm very religious. And it comes from God. My resilience, my stamina. And I think with experience, you build stamina, you build resilience. But I think it comes from within.
Have you and your, because you mentioned you grew up with your father and your mother, both successful individuals.
Yeah.
What did they say about you on a regular basis? What's something that like, I'm assuming they're proud of you, right? You've quite
of
remarkable
course,
young man. Because your dad is broker, right?
Yeah.
I imagine your dad is not going to be a broker till the day he dies. Imagine.
Yeah.
What has there been a conversation, like, I always wondered this actually, I'm just curious, like what happens in the transition? Have you and your dad ever spoken to like, hey, like you have a sister too, does it go 50-50?
I think he's gonna work until the day he dies, Brandon.
Stop. Wow.
Which is amazing.
Amazing.
He has the energy. He loves the business. Talking to people and meeting with agents and helping people. He truly has a love for the business.
He loves it.
So he tells me, I'm gonna work until I'm not gonna.
I hope he lives till 300 years old. I hope he's the longest living man.
Yeah.
Well, God forbid one day, like me and you will both, I don't know if you know this, we're both going to die.
Yeah.
When your father passes, has there ever been a discussion of like, because you have a sister too, is she in real estate minded as well or no?
She's going to be a doctor. She's going to school right now.
For medical school.
She's going to medical school.
So I imagine she's not going to want to take over the brokerage.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm next in line. What I want to do is I love real estate. I love construction. I love development. I want to be one of the biggest developers. I want to work in New Jersey. I want to work in New York City. I don't really do it, Brendan, for the money. I do it for the sport, for the game, for the competition.
I think you really mean that.
Yeah. I think money is a way to keep score to a certain extent, but you really need to be in love and be obsessed with the game. And the most successful people in the world and the happiest people in the world love what they do. They have a certain obsession towards their craft, and that allows you to diversify your life.
Do you love the sport or do you love winning?
I get a charge out of winning, but I like the sport.
How would you differentiate the two?
Well, everybody wants to win in what they do. Whatever you may do in life, whether it's real estate or whether you're an athlete, you always want to win. If you're competitive, if you're driven, which I am very much, you always want to win. But I love the process. I see it as a form of art. Working, getting to a certain point, surpassing that point, reaching certain goals, reaching certain milestones. I love the creation process. If you have a certain goal, you're not just going to catapult to that goal. You need to be in love with the process. And I was an athlete. I played 3 sports in high school. But I truly love the business. And I think that's what allows me to be resilient, to succeed in the business, because I really love it.
Wow, this is, and honestly, I really see that you love it.
Yeah.
If I may psychoanalyze you real quick. So every boy is born with an innate need for validation, right?
Yeah.
This is how masculinity is bestowed.
Right.
Masculinity is not bestowed from your mother. That's why single mothers have such a difficult time.
Yeah.
Right? My mother was a single mother. A single mother then becomes mother and father.
Right.
Very, very unhealthy. No good.
Yeah.
A boy needs a masculine energy. Why? The masculine bestows masculinity.
Right.
Femininity cannot bestow masculinity.
Right.
So with this said, this is why when guys, who are young and they're going to women trying to like, oh, I'm a man because I got this. No, it will never really work.
Yeah.
It's very artificial validation.
Right. Right.
Anyways, with that said, it's so interesting for you, and actually, in my opinion, it sounds like a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Because you grew up, the person we most want validation from is our father.
Yeah.
Your father, obviously, he was born. I assume your father came from humble beginnings in America, first gen, right?
Yeah.
He was here. He moved.
He was born in Colombia.
Yes.
He was born in Colombia. He came here. My mother was born here.
Yes.
But my mother's side of the family is from Spain.
But your father's an immigrant.
He's an immigrant.
That's the truth, right? And
yes.
obviously, I'm not saying it in a bad way. My mother's an immigrant too.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
With that said, you see that your father comes in and he builds up his own dynasties, empire, right? This small kingdom in a big world, right?
Yeah.
That's all these beautiful things. You are growing up, what do you want? You want your father's validation, just like we all do.
Yeah.
So you want your dad's validation. Your dad brings you alongside with him in the workforce. In this case, real estate. Your dad, you're seeing him shake people's hands. He's gaining respect. Your father's modeling to you what it looks like to be a man. You, of course, what do you want to be? You want to be a man, right? You don't want to be a boy forever. You want to be a little punk? No, you want to be your own man.
Yeah.
So with that said, but your father's present in that way. Yeah. Where a lot of people, I'm realizing, they keep the business almost away from their child, or they force their child, saying, how can you not take over? Yeah. But without being present and loving and affirming. I think that's a key thing that I see in you. It's like you've been affirmed. You've been affirmed. It's like, no, hey, George, you are this. Hey, George, I'm proud of you for this. Look at my son.
Although I've been affirmed, and I was very lucky. Everybody grows up in a different situation.
Of course.
My father was an immigrant. Some people don't have certain things. Other people that do have certain things don't reach a certain point, and so forth. Everybody's different. My father, from a very young age, was very similar to me. He lived in Colombia. It wasn't so easy.
Of course.
But he was always, he had a terrific father, my grandfather, very successful, very intelligent guy.
In Colombia.
Very wise. And he was very hardworking. He came to this country. He worked at the Marriott, setting tables and so forth prior to becoming real estate. Then he opened his own cleaning company. He went through that, and for that I'm very lucky because then I don't have to go through that.
Of course.
I received the wisdom that he received from his father, from all the experience that he had. So I have an upper hand over many people who may not have the things that I have. So it's up to me to take advantage of that, to use my upper hand, to use the strength and the wisdom and the intelligence that my father has gained from his life and his experience in the business, and ultimately take it to the next level. I think that's what my duty is. And another thing that I harp importantly on, which I see in many successful people, is you need to have a sense of urgency. Life moves by very, very quickly. 5 years go like this. We're still very young. I'm younger, but you're also very young. You're a young guy. And 5 years, 10 years, 15 years go like this. So I think if you want to achieve a certain level, you need to have a sense of urgency. I study Elon Musk. I study Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs, for example, had a sense of urgency in doing what he wanted to do, releasing the Apple I and then taking off with the Apple II, to bring something to humanity in a quick time frame. And the guy in 2-3 years working with Steve Wozniak was able to release the Apple II because of the sense of urgency. So I think that's very important. And you need to have fun. It's you do the business. It's not really all business. Yeah. But I'm very creative. I'm in entertainment. We have the Ritz Theater. I bring artists. I like having fun. I like enjoying the business and enjoying money. And I'm very adventurous. Maybe in the future I get into other forms of real estate or other forms of entertainment with artists and sports. But I really believe in enjoying and having fun in the business.
It does seem like you, especially being 21, you got to have fun. Yeah. Right? Cut loose a little. Yeah. So I guess What would you mentioned that you're thinking about being that you're one of your ambitions is being a developer.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have your father's support in becoming a developer, let's say New Jersey, New York?
Very much so. He's very supportive of me. And we're actually working together to do certain things right now.
Yeah.
In order, our office is licensed in New York. I'm licensed in New York. I've had a couple deals in New York. But totally, I know I have full support. My father's always been very supportive of me. And I know that with his support, with my mother, with my sister, with the rest of my family, with my friends, I'm going to be able to reach that level. But it all comes from within. It's a lot of focus. It's a lot of discipline that goes into reaching that level. And I know right now I'm very talented, I'm very young, but I'm at 1% of where I need to be if I'm going to reach that level. So every day I'm constantly, reading books, watching interviews, becoming more knowledgeable so that I can reach the point that I want to be.
What books would you recommend someone read who's like already in the industry, who's growing, who's thriving, but wants to get further along? What books would you recommend?
I like 2 books. I love The Art of War, which doesn't really tie into real estate.
Oh, I don't know what that's war. Real estate's war, so that's a great book for real estate.
I mean, psychology.
Yeah.
Because real estate is all psychology, as you know. It's all psychology.
That's it.
It's knowing how to speak. It's knowing how to, for example,
how to listen
when you present an offer. And I know it's a real estate podcast. When you present an offer, how do you sell that offer? How do you sell that client? How do you sell that buyer? How do you make the listing agent comfortable with the proof of funds, with the pre-approval letter, so that your client wins the offer? It's all knowing, how to sell.
So you have the Art of War. That's
Art of
number
War,
one.
the
Number
48
two.
Laws of Power.
48 Laws of Power, number 2.
48 Laws of Power, I love.
Okay, wow. I would agree with those 2 books. Definitely in line with your character, by the way, for sure.
I love The Prince by Machiavelli. Not so popular. It's with the Art of Deal, trilogy, I believe.
Yeah.
The Prince by Machiavelli.
Wow.
I think it's a phenomenal book.
Do you end up becoming friends with your clients?
I become very close to my clients. My clients invite me to their barbecues. I'm very open. I love having a good time. So I'm very close to my clients. My clients trust me, and they love me.
Nice. God comes down to you one day. He's wearing. Hey, I want to give you one thing, but I want you to ask for it. What would you ask for?
Wisdom. I would ask for wisdom.
Wise man. You went the Solomon route.
Wisdom, because wisdom comes with experience. And at my age, it's very easy to perhaps make certain mistakes because of how young I am. I haven't lived certain things that maybe other people, although many people say that I'm wise beyond my years, I would say the number one is wisdom. And I think the number one thing in life is knowledge. And it's very hard to pinpoint one particular thing, but I would say wisdom and knowledge.
In my mindset, you are a very, very strange person to speak to because you are so opposite of what 21-year-olds are in America right now.
Yeah.
And frankly, it seems as though, I'm sure your family's dysfunctional. Not every family's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there's issues, right? Everyone has issues. So, right, different degrees. But it seems like overall, what I keep hearing from you is your family has a sense of unity, purpose, and belonging that has united you guys unapologetically. And what a better thing, what more can we want than men who have been initiated by their fathers, moving forward to confidence in the real estate industry, not being consumed by, oh, I want the money, oh, I want the watch, oh, I want the car, I want the girls. Oh my God, that's the worst. But another, it's like, no, I love competition. Yeah. Maybe you will get into politics. I think you could do very well in politics, honestly.
Yeah, I
would vote for you. Come on. Yeah. All right, George, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. It's always time we got for today, but I am very grateful for you. Thank you for coming.
Likewise. And I appreciate you having me very much. I wish you the best with the podcast. We're here in a beautiful mansion. And this is beautiful location. I really wish you the best.
Yes, Kruger Scott Mansion. We're here located in Newark. Come visit. Adios.